Just waiting for Tamara to come on. She was going to be on. We'll give it another minute and then we can get started. As you all know, the purpose of the meeting is to discuss any questions or comments that anyone has on the proposed action plan that the township plans to submit to HUD after it'll be a vote at the council meeting on October 21st, and then it'll be submitted to HUD sometime after that. There's a few different things that have to get connected to it once that vote happens, and then it'll be submitted to HUD shortly thereafter. We're going to give everybody a chance to introduce themselves, and then we're also going to give everybody 5 minutes to speak and ask whatever questions they may have regarding the action plan. I'm still not seeing Tamara, but Pastor Goodson, do you want to get started? Just to introduce yourself.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Nathaniel Goodson. I'm the chairman of the Bywood Community Association. I'm also a pastor of Prayer Chapel Church here in Upper Darby.
Thank you.
My name is Garcia Wilkins. I'm a member of the Prayer Chapel Church of God in Christ, but I'm also a community member. I'm a member of Upper Darby. I live in Upper Darby, a resident. And I also work at the church and also in that neighborhood, the Bywood community.
Thank you for joining us. Mr. Smith, do you want to go?
Oh, thank you. I'm James Smith. I'm working with the Bywood Community Association on developing their community action plan.
Okay. Ms. Rashida?
Hi, my name is Rashida Allen. I am a board member of the Bywood Community Association and a local business owner.
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
Yes, I am a member of the nonprofit organization Men of Action, Brothers of Faith, and a longtime member of the Upper Darby community. Thank you.
And Mr. Diggins? You need to take yourself off mute. You need to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, hey, how you doing, everybody? My name is Hameen Diggins. I am the vice president with Men of Action, Brothers of Faith, which is a nonprofit organization within the community, and also an activist within the community in Delaware County.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not sure if Tamara is going to join. Did I miss anybody? I can only see the people on my screen. Is there anybody else I didn't get to? There's also from our office, Teresa Grassi is on the call. She's on so that she can take minutes so that we'll have documentation of the meeting.
Kathy, there is a Michael Trent online. I'd like him to introduce himself.
Okay, I don't see him on the screen. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michael Trent. I'm the president of Men of Action, Brothers of Faith. Thank you.
Thank you. Pastor Goodson, do you want to start then? And we'll start discussing the action plan and whatever questions, comments anyone has on it. Did you have an opportunity to look at the action plan? You're on mute, sir.
I'm sorry. I'm always trying to make sure that my background noise does not interfere with the meetings. I did have an opportunity to look at the action plan. I just want, before I have several questions that I want to ask.
Okay.
But I want to make sure that I understand that the action plan is in fact a draft. That
correct.
Has not been approved yet by Township Council. Is that correct?
That's correct. First step in the process is a draft and then citizen comment. And then the action plan will be finalized once it gets voted on.
Okay.
at the 1021 council meeting.
Excellent, thank you. So my first question has to do with the action plan. Can you tell me if the action plan is from the previous administration?
Okay, you asked this in your email last night.
Correct.
And I think when you say action plan, I think what you're referring to is the consolidated plan. Is that what you mean? Because
No.
this action plan's a brand new action plan that just got created.
All right, thank you. So, thank you. That answers my question regarding the action plan. So my next question then would have to do also with the action plan. And I
Okay.
would like to know what was the community's participation in the development and the adoption of that plan?
That Tamara was supposed to be on the call, and that is something that she would be able to answer, or Mayor, could you answer that?
You're on mute.
You need to unmute yourself. Mayor, you need to unmute yourself.
I was going to say I have to find myself to unmute myself because there's a call. But I've been in email communication with Tamara, and I think she's going to come on pretty shortly
Okay.
to answer that question.
So should I go on with my next question in anticipation for Ms. Crump coming on?
Yes, please.
All right. My next question then again has to do with the community plan. I would be interested in knowing what the objectives and the goals of the administration were or are in the action plan. And is it any different? Are those goals and those objectives any different from the previous administration's plan?
Can I just answer a question on that? And then if the mayor would like to take over, she can take over. In the communication that we had last night, I mentioned to you a consolidated plan. Every community is required to do a 5-year consolidated plan. And in that plan, they lay out their goals and objectives for the next 5 years. This action plan is associated with, every action plan gets associated with the consolidated plan that's in place. And that action plan has to meet the goals that were outlined in that consolidated plan. So this current action plan is connected to the 2015 consolidated plan in terms of what the goals are that were to be met. The objectives are the national objectives that are set out by HUD. That's been the same since 1974. The national objectives must be met in order for the action plan to be approved by HUD. So whether it's a low mod, 70% of the money has to be used to benefit low mod residents in the township. And then there's an allowance for fair housing activities and an allowance for administrative activities. And potentially a historic preservation or something like that, which isn't considered to benefit low mod people. But the objectives are either low mod area, low mod individuals, such as in the housing rehab program where it's a direct benefit to a low mod individual. Limited clientele, which would be the kind of activity. One of the projects are homeless assistance. That would be a limited clientele, but it has to meet a HUD designated national objective. So just to give you a little bit of background before the mayor continues on. Does that give you a little bit more clarity?
I guess what I'm really honestly trying to say or trying to ask is, and I appreciate this time, and I probably will monopolize a lot of the time because I really don't understand a lot of what's going on. I don't understand the plan. I don't understand why, where we are. So I appreciate the opportunity. I just can't seem to get my head wrapped around this. So thank you for giving me that answer. What I'm trying to get to is that I don't understand why, or if the plan, I'm trying to figure out if there was any community involvement in putting this plan together. I hear what you're saying about the goals and the objectives, and I hear you saying that those goals and those objectives came from the federal government. What I'm trying to figure out is whether or not those goals and those objectives coincide or are connected with the community, with the township plan.
If I can interject, I can just explain what my understanding of is, and anybody can tell me if I'm wrong, but the HUD objectives were outlined in the grant application, and that's what we spoke to. That's what we created. We retrofitted our activities around the HUD objectives so that we could address the needs. And then it looks like the community action plan, which I wasn't aware of, the document that was sent out by Tamara, it looks like it was born out of the projects that were submitted, by the various parties. So it looks like it's more detailed, and it looks like it's a definitive plan of steps that the administration wants to take in order to improve the community based on the projects that they received and considered. So that's my understanding of it. I did not see a community action plan prior to completing the application. I simply saw the objectives that were outlined in the grant application, and that's what we spoke to as far as the projects that we submitted for consideration.
Right, and you did an excellent job of doing that.
And I appreciate that, Mr. Brown. I think for me, since I didn't have that plan prior, I wasn't sure what the goals and the objectives of the township were. And I'm having a real difficult time understanding why the plan that we submitted, the project that we submitted, does not coincide and does not connect to the goals of the township. So maybe Mr. Smith, who as our consultant, can help me a little bit with that, because again, unfortunately, I'm in the dark with a lot of this.
Pastor Goodson, you got the same thing that they got. Everybody got the exact same application form. You got the same thing.
And I understand that. Unfortunately, perhaps most of the people on this line are a whole lot more intelligent than me, and that they can understand these concepts. And I've been reaching out, trying to get an understanding of the process. And that's basically my frustration, because I haven't been able to get answers to my questions so that I understood them.
We began meeting with you back last September or October under the former administration to try to assist you in coming up with an application that would be eligible and fundable. When you've communicated with me, I've answered you immediately. I can't speak to any other communications you have, but when you've asked a question, it's been answered. The purpose of the meeting that we held on 5/27 was also to provide more clarity. You all had your applications in hand at that point in time, but to help you complete your applications so that it could be an eligible and fundable application.
I would agree with that. I think, Kathy, the other thing that I would add is we did some new things in that process. That type of meeting to assist all applicants on the application, to give them a venue in which they could ask questions, that had never happened before. So that was a step toward opening this up. I know that the mayor had conversations with other community groups. So this was also the first time we had a larger pool of applicants, which was the goal. So I see that we have moved forward there, and I'm very pleased with the fact that we had a larger applicant pool and that we gave people an opportunity to understand the application process better, to answer their questions in community, so that we could benefit from, everyone's questions, and then see if there was anything that we could do to strengthen our process. We had a stronger application this year as well, in more detail. So those are some positives that were firsts, and I'm grateful that we had that opportunity to do that under this administration. So as far as what is fundable and what isn't fundable, I do agree with Kathy. We've had that conversation multiple times. HUD's positioning is the grantee has a determination to make. And so we do public service projects. It doesn't mean that other activities or ideas do not coincide with goals. It means it does not serve, they may not rather serve as a public service project, which is what we choose as a township to fund under HUD regulations.
And I appreciate that, Ms. Crump. I do, and I appreciate that, Ms. Houlihan, but I'm just really having a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that our organization participates in community participation. That's the reason that we exist, to provide our community with information, to provide our community with an ability to do for themselves. That's really the foundation and the basis of our organization. I'm just having a hard time understanding why it doesn't appear to the township that the Byward Community Association is involved in public service by providing our community with ways to make their lives better. And I
think that that's visible. I think that we understand that. But if I could give this illustration, if funding comes out and says this funding is available for low, moderate income families to receive food assistance, and an application comes in and says, well, we're going to educate the low, moderate income residents on food safety. And I would then say that's not what this funding is for. It has to be a food service. So you have to be providing food to these families. And they say, but we want to educate them on how to make healthy choices. That's great. That's not what this funding is for. Would it be acceptable for that individual group or whomever to say, you need to adjust your rules so that we can receive this funding? Or would it be acceptable for them to say, okay, we're going to switch gears. We are going to provide food. And then we would also like to add to our programming and educate this community on healthy choices. So then I would say you will be funded for your food provision, and that other portion will have to come from a different funding source. This is about, here are the guidelines. This is the box in which we provide public service funding. When the project meets the regulations of that box, then we provide the funding. When it does not, then we cannot. I think that the idea is we are not acting in bad faith. We are working to make sure more community organizations have access to the information, which we did successfully this round. We are making sure.
Tamara? Tamara, you froze up.
Yeah,
Can you hear
she's
me?
buffering.
On and who the organization is. This is the way that we are moving forward in order to better serve the community. We are keeping in line with all public notices that need to go out and making sure. Did you not notice that what did I do this time? I said, I'm going to let you know when the public notice will be out. I even took it a step further and said, hey, everyone, public notice is prepared. It's not approved yet. As soon as it is, I will let you know so that you can see this information in the paper. And on top of it, once it came out, in case someone didn't have a subscription, didn't purchase the paper, I made sure to take a PDF version and send that out to everyone who applied, whether they were funded or not, so that they could see what does the public notice look like, what information is in there, and that there is a public hearing, which allows an opportunity for our community to be heard as we are doing now. These are all positive things. They are good things that we should continue to do and continue to build on. But we must follow our guidelines and regulations. And as much as it may be unpalatable to some, it is the township's determination how they distribute their community development block grant funds. And as far as it being a public service, that we decide it's public service, that's our category, and we follow the HUD regulations to make those determinations.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
I have one, and I guess I'm trying to get my head around the idea of how you decide how much monies are to go to what organization. Because when I look at it, we asked for like some 17,000 and something. You gave us 3,000, or you saying we can have 3,250. And I'm trying to figure out, well, how does that fit in with how do you guys determine how do you disperse the monies? Because when I look at it, that's like 270 a month. That's something like less than a half. I mean, less than, it's like 20.2% of the whole amount. So I'm trying to figure out, how do you guys determine how the money is dispersed?
That's simple. And it is good to see you again, Mr. Wilkins.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you this. When we look at what is asked for, we will fund as much as we can. And in the application we received from BCA, the only requested expenses that met the public service project definition, we funded that 100%. So the other expenses that were requested did not meet that. They were more administrative in nature, and we're not providing administrative funds. So we funded actually 100% of what was requested that was considered a public service project.
Okay, is that communicated to the organizations though? What parts were and weren't?
I did communicate that to Pastor Goodson, yes.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
Are you still providing for 5 minutes for each person online?
Well, we tried to do that, but we've gone way over that so far. I just wanted to give everybody an opportunity to speak that wanted to speak.
I'm not sure I'm understanding the answer.
I'm saying Pastor Goodson went over 5 minutes with it. We spent already a half an hour on that conversation.
Okay, let me conclude by saying that our organization is very committed to citizens' participation. Our reason for existing in the first place is to provide our community with information, with how we can better make our community better. That's our mission. That's what we do. It's clear to me that apparently the township and I aren't on the same page. And for that, I'm sorry. I certainly want to partner with the township. We'll continue to partner with the township, but it may be that applying for CDBG dollars on behalf of our community is not a sound strategy for us. Maybe it's not something that we should be doing. So let me add, we're going to continue to partner with Upper Darby Township. The mayor and I have been in constant conversations. We will continue to do that. But this process has really taught me an awful lot. It's taught me a lot about the process. It's taught me a lot about how funds are disseminated. And I probably need to go back to my board. We need to talk about the future of BCA and how we can continue to do the work that we're doing in our community without CDBG funds.
Pastor Goodson, may I just respond to that quickly? I find that a little disheartening. I think that Upper Darby Township absolutely is committed to the good of the community and absolutely to having people participate. I think that it would be, an unfortunate tragedy if you determine applying for CDBG is not what you would want to do. I would reiterate that you apply for a public service active project. You can apply for that and request the amount of funds needed to support that project. And that then gets reviewed again, according to HUD guidelines, according to HUD risk assessment and viability, and numbered so that everyone has a just opportunity at the funds, and then you get them. If the waste management project had requested $25,000 and was going to have a reach to adjust that, et cetera, and there was a plan in place, then that in this case would have been funded at 100%. Unfortunately, what was requested was the $3,250. So that's what was funded. We have to look at following the rules and simply applying as a project. I think that we have been able to provide the support to help those projects become realized. But if the insistence is we really want this funding to fit into this box, and the township's position is, but we have this box over here is where it needs to fit. That may be the only place that we have a shift. If we can get this paradigm to the place of we get it, township funding, public service projects. And this waste management is a project. This to me is a tremendous start for BCA. When you're beginning, it never hurts to start off a little bit small and begin to build the momentum. So if you do on this project year 46, if you execute this program well and it goes well, the community responds well to it, the members of the association really like this, and you say, we can expand on this and make it better, you do that in your next application. Or you may determine that there is another project that you're passionate about and that you want to pursue. So I'd have to say, please be just in making the assessment as to whether or not you would continue to partner via CDBG with the township, as opposed to saying, well, if we're not able to do it the way that we see fit, we're just not going to do it. I don't think that that benefits you. I think that you do a great project this year with the funding that you asked for, and you build on that for next year, and you apply again. But again, I cannot tell you what to do. That would be a decision of yours and the community association. But I really do think that the ultimate benefit is for the association to continue to seek funds, but to make sure that they do it within the project framework that the township is using.
May I respond? May I respond?
Sure.
I think it was year 2018 that the Upper Darby Township adopted a comprehensive plan. In their comprehensive plan, it established that one of the priorities of the township was neighborhood associations. And so the incongruency begins there, that your comp plan is your guide for the development and the continual improvement of the township. I don't think anybody argues that point. The establishment of a neighborhood association is an answer to the comp plan's priority. And I think that when Mr. Wilkins says that you've devoted less than 20% of a penny to any neighborhood association, that is curious. But let me finish my comment. There was, in previous years before this administration, and COVID has prevented a significant amount of that from happening this year, there's been minimal to no community input. And I think that while we're going to cite the federal government's guidelines, both the spirit and the regulation suggests that the formulation of the plan have community input. And to the extent that that has not happened, it's curious that what I've heard as an explanation is this got determined. The third category, I believe, of the RFP lists A through H priorities, but they were general. It is to say that we're going to focus on nutrition, but doesn't say, for example, but what you really have to do is feed people. In the absence of having said that, and to identify that we're going to teach nutrition, but doesn't say you have to specifically feed people. That leaves the applicant out there shooting at something only to be told later that that's not the case. Neighborhood associations, in terms of the comp plan, as I understood it, and the idea that the federal government has basically said you should have community involvement in how you move forward. It seems to me that the community involvement that Bywood brought to that is to think more broadly about what those public services would be. And I guess that's a concern that I think Pastor Goodson has expressed. So let me conclude my comments by saying this. Pastor Goodson did not say he would not continue with community projects. What he said is that in the absence of community involvement in how the actual RFP gets decided, without having a community involvement in that process, suggests that he will never have an opportunity to, as a community member, say to the township, would you consider this? And so for him to continue to submit what is related to his mission, which is apparently more comprehensive than your prescription for fundable projects, it would be futile for him to continue to fit his program to your prescription. And
Okay,
that's
James,
the
thank you.
problem.
The mayor wants to speak.
I can't stay on for too much longer because I have another meeting, but I'd like to say that this is an imperfect process, perhaps, and we are operating on the consolidated plan that was determined 5 years ago by the township. And I'm very grateful that we have Tamara and Kathy who have worked with the previous administration. They're still with us. We need their experience and guidance on this. And I think ultimately the money that's directed to community groups or private groups is always going to be capped at 15% of whatever the grant award is. So
Right.
that makes it tough. And Upper Darby is becoming a place where there are going to be more neighborhood groups, community associations that would like some funding. This funding isn't meant to be, I don't think, to carry a whole group. And I really appreciate Pastor Goodson and all the work that the Bywood Community Association has done. And I look forward to doing more work together. Things, it might not be ideal, but we have an opportunity next year to come up with a different consolidated plan. So the parameters that we were all working under this year, I think will be a little bit different. So that's what I would like to say to this. And I remembered, I don't know, I'll take the blame for this. I was on council for 6 years before this year, and these hearings were always scheduled at like 4 o'clock on a Tuesday or something like that. And I know it's 2:30 today on a Thursday. It's not ideal. Next year, I really would like this hearing and the whole process beforehand to be better advertised and maybe more open. But the first part of next year is going to be, I think, Tamara and Kathy, you can chime in if I'm wrong, but it would be to craft the consolidated plan.
Right, that's correct. And I just want to say one other thing, James. There's a difference between the consolidated plan and the comprehensive plan. The action plan has to meet the goals of the consolidated plan, which the current one does not necessarily encompass everything that was outlined in the township's comprehensive plan. And as the mayor said, there's an opportunity next year to make changes and expand on the goals that were selected.
Well, as long as there's an understanding, Kathy, that it seems to me that what drives funding is wanting to fulfill within your comp plan. And if one of the things that's in your plan is that you want to encourage neighborhood associations, it seems to me that they need to participate in deciding what is the criteria for funding neighborhood association. And it seems to me
the criteria
that may
is
very well
set
be.
by HUD. That's not set
well,
by
no,
the
ma'am, no, ma'am,
criteria
that's not true. Well, I'm not talking about
Yes,
the
it
broad.
is.
I'm not talking about the broad generalities. I'm talking about that the CDBG requires community participation it seems to me that that would ultimately lead to defining community projects. That's my point.
Okay, Ms. Rashid has been waiting to speak. I don't know if she's even still on the call.
She is. Did you want to say something?
I'm still on a call. I'm sorry. I just put my questions in the chat. I was just wondering about the time of day. I mean, it's an inconvenience because we're working. And of course, there are a lot of other community members that wanted to hear and be a part of this public hearing. So I was just wondering, is this going to be scheduled again? Is there another opportunity, or will the future ones be held at a different time to allow more people to participate?
For this particular action plan, the next meeting will be the council meeting. And then it's up to the township to determine how they want to do this next year.
Oh, okay. And I'm only adding because, again, to try to get the community to actually have a voice in this, 2:30 in the afternoon is not the ideal time for working people, especially when we're talking about just benefiting the township and just, getting feedback. 2:30 is not convenient.
I understand what you're saying. And I think the mayor addressed that too, and plans to do something differently next year.
Yeah, time suggestions are welcome. And I just feel compelled to clarify that this particular meeting is not about what types of projects we do. It's about looking at the action plan that was in the public notice. And if you have any questions, clarifications about that particular action plan. This is my town. I love this town. So we don't beat up on Upper Darby in my world. And what I would say is there is definitely an effort to make sure that our community is participating, but that definition is probably what we need to clarify, because it sounds very much like, well, community participation means the community has to give input into every single thing that the township does. Community participation means if we have a comprehensive plan and it says this, that every source of funding, then the community has to say how we're going to use that. That's not how it works. Unfortunately, it just is not how it works. The way that this works is there are aspects of the work that is open for community participation. It may not sound like what everyone is wanting to hear, but it will always be, unless HUD changes it, the grantees' determination on how they want to disperse their funding based on their guidelines. And once you are doing that, community participation comes in making sure the community is aware of the projects, in making sure that we, like we did this year, get this information out so that more potential applicants are able to apply. We are doing an excellent job. We are following the rules, and that is simply true. That is fact. We may have some disagreements on exactly how this looks and how we define it, but at the end of the day, the township is meeting its obligations. Some of them, people just may say, well, that's strange. Are we obligated to put the public notice in more than one paper? No. Are we obligated to put the public notice out multiple times? We are not by HUD. Are we obligated to have more than one public hearing? No. Any of those things that we do would just be things that we did that are extra, but whether or not people agree with it, it meets HUD's guidelines. And I think that that's what we do have to understand is the township is meeting the guideline. And if there are, I think there was an idea that you can't come to us and say, would you consider this? What about this? That may very well be. It may also be that there are other funding sources that can support those things. And so I think that we need to have that understanding. But I want to make sure that it is very clear that Upper Darby is operating in excellence so far as CDBG is concerned, and that I'm more than willing to take responsibility for anything that is not done in a just or appropriate manner.
Does anyone else have any questions?
The city council meeting will be the adoption, but that setting does not require public comment. Is that correct?
Tamara,
What is the format for how that gets determined?
The public hearing is now.
No, I'm talking about city council.
The public hearing is now. The council meeting is Wednesday evening, where we let the council know this has had its public comment. It has also had its final run. and then council has their opportunity to respond to it. At the beginning of council meetings, the public is able to leave their comments, as these are now virtual. Pastor Goodson served on council for many years and can speak to how that works exactly. But the public is able to make comment at council meetings in general. So if you feel that you want to make an additional comment during council, you are absolutely welcome to exercise that civic right. That's what Upper Darby residents are encouraged to do at council meetings. I have not been on council, and that's not my area of expertise.
I want to make sure that I'm hearing you correctly, that with regard to the city council meeting, from your knowledge, that people who choose to log on to that meeting, you're saying that it is a part of their protocol to allow through the Zoom call for people to comment.
Comments are submitted and they are read.
Okay.
At the meeting. It is done every single time. All of the meetings are on Zoom. They are available on the YouTube, so you can go and see how that process looks. But that is exactly what I'm saying. You may submit comments. Those comments are read. When the comments take longer than the allotted time, council must vote on whether or not to continue reading through comments or to move forward with their agenda.
Okay.
I have a question for, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Smith. You continue. I'm sorry.
No, she answered my question. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. I just had a brief question. I did submit a comment, and this is for Kathy or Tamara. Will that comment be read at the Township Council meeting?
It can be, yes, it should be, because it was public comment. So that will go to Allison for reading at the beginning of the meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ed.
I'd just like to clarify what your answer, Tamara, from Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, are you suggesting that the comment that you made in this forum, whether or not that will be read at the council meeting? Okay.
No. I submitted a comment in writing to Kathy as per the public notice, and that's the comment I was referring to. Okay. I'm sorry if I wasn't clear. I apologize.
No, I just wanted to clarify, because I do plan on making a comment to the council. So I just wanted to make sure that the process that Ms. Crump has given us, that everyone understood that that was the process. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Tamara, is that correct? Mr. Brown's email will be read?
Yes, because he submitted that as public comment in response
Okay.
to what was in the paper. So.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, well.
Thank you, everybody, for your time.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Everyone have a good day.